been looking for you for 8 months. Whenever I should have had a gun in my right hand, I thought of you. Now I find you in exactly the position that suits me. I had lots of time to learn how to shoot with my left.
When you have to shoot, shoot, don't talk.
The spaghetti western films of the 1960s and 70s, shot in the deserts of Italy and Spain, came to be known as such by the press in an attempt to distinguish between American westerns and to make fun of the new subgenre. However, what the press wasn't counting on was how these films would revolutionize the western genre, moving towards a more realistic and immoral approach when it came to its characters and environments. This change came as people were beginning to tire of the formulaic films of the previous decades. In fact, Sergio Leone, the father of the spaghetti western genre, cited his interest in making a new kind of western, resulting from his disappointment with how romanticized American westerns were. He saw the environment in which westerns take place as existing without clear moral or ethical lines. This, in addition to the low production cost, especially compared to the enormous cost to make films in Hollywood, led Sergio Leone to create the first film to jumpstart the subgenre, A Fistful of Dollars. Of course, this did not mean that there weren't previous films that could be categorized as spaghetti westerns, like Minnesota Clay, directed by Sergio Corbucci. However, none of them had the success that A Fistful of Dollars did. The film would kick off a golden age of spaghetti westerns, in a trilogy starring Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef, who had become some of the most prominent actors of this era. This film made good on Leone's wishes to make the genre more realistic, with a level of violence previously unseen, especially in Hollywood, where the Hays Code, a Hollywood self-imposed set of guidelines prohibiting profanity, suggestive nudity, graphic or realistic violence, sexual persuasion, and rape, would still rule supreme for another 4 years. The film also features an anti-hero, played by Clint Eastwood, with moral ambiguity, mostly looking out for himself. Lastly, the film features a score from the legendary composer Ennio Morricone. While this score would not be as most memorable in the spaghetti western genre, it transformed the idea of what a film score could be. Because of the film's budget restraints, Morricone was left without an orchestra, causing him to search for other unique sounds to add. The resulting mix of whistles, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bells, and whip cracks can still be seen in almost every future western score to this day. In fact, a lot of those future western scores were done by Morricone himself. Despite the pioneering of this film, it was done on a budget of only $100,000, and with a multitude of language barrier problems, resulting from the mix of Italian, American, and German cast and crew members. However, audience members seemed not to mind this much, as it would go on to become incredibly successful in both Italy and the United States. It seemed like audiences were ready for this new kind of western, and Sergio Leone was there to deliver. The very next year, Eastwood reprised his role from A Fistful of Dollars, The Man with No Name, in the loose sequel for a few dollars more. This film continued down the path of the first, pushing the boundaries of the western genre and, with a bigger budget, allowed Leone to experiment more within this new genre. Most importantly, the film introduced one of the most important actors commonly correlated with the subgenre, Lee Van Cleef. The next year, the final film of the trilogy came out and cemented spaghetti westerns in film history. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is still commonly rated as one of the greatest westerns of all time, and for good reason. The film stars Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach in a journey revolving around the three men with defined morals, good, bad, and ugly. However, these labels are constantly in question. The film features beautiful, wide landscapes and an Ennio Morricone score known by almost every person on Earth. The finale features one of the most suspenseful scenes of all time, a masterclass in how to end a Western. It's personally one of my favorite films of all time. From here, Leone would add Once Upon a Time in the West, starring Henry Fonda, to the genre. We also see films such as Django, directed by Sergio Corbucci, They Call Me Trinity, directed by Enzo Barboni, and Death Rides a Horse, directed by Giuliano Petroni, starting in 1966. These films continued down the path that Leone paved while exploring different realms of the genre and still paying homage to what came before. An example of the lasting impact of the genre is the 2012 film Django Unchained, directed by Quentin Tarantino and scored by the legend himself, Ennio Morricone. The film is directly inspired by the spaghetti western genre, and specifically Corbucci's Django from 1966, which was actually a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo from 1961. Tarantino is not the only filmmaker who pays homage to the spaghetti western genre, and he certainly won't be the last. These films continue to spread their influence across film and TV works, whether it's extreme eye-level close-ups or the timeless scores of Morricone. These films continue to spark inspiration in those who came long after. I like to believe this is because their ability to show flawed characters who have overcome the problems inside and out, acting as humans naturally do, painted beautifully in front of the Italian and occasionally Spanish countryside.